Who's actually going to get the most out of a high-end tower like the Lenovo Legion T5 Gen 8? And who should walk away before they click Add to Cart? Is a pre-built with an i7-13700F and an RTX 4070 really the sweet spot for a casual gamer who only drops into a few titles a week? Or does it make more sense for the streamer who wants to keep everything in one box? And with a price that nudges into the upper mid-range, does it actually deliver enough bang for the everyday buyer who isn't chasing every frame? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've been watching this segment of the market for a while, reading forum threads, looking at build guides, and listening to people who've tried to squeeze a future-proof rig out of a pre-built. The big tension people face is the fear of overpaying for specs they'll never tap, or underpaying and ending up with a bottleneck when the next game drops. The Legion T5 tries to sit right in the middle, promising a full desktop experience without the headache of hunting down compatible parts. Let's break down what that actually looks like when you plug it in, fire up a game, or try to stream a session. First off, the core of any gaming PC is the processor, and the 13th Gen Intel i7-13700F brings 16 cores and 24 threads to the table. In real life, that translates to smooth frame rates in CPU-heavy titles like Cyberpunk 2077 or Microsoft Flight Simulator, where you'll see the difference between a choppy 50 frames per second and a buttery consistent 70+ when you enable higher draw distances. The fact that it's an F variant means there's no integrated graphics, which is fine because the RTX 4070 is doing the heavy lifting. The 4070 is solid for 1440p gaming at high settings. I've seen it push Elden Ring past 100 frames per second on a 144Hz monitor while keeping temperatures under 75°C thanks to Lenovo's decent airflow design. For someone who wants a crisp, fluid experience without stepping up to a 4 Conley card, that's a practical sweet spot. Memory is another area where the Legion T5 throws a lot of weight behind you. 64GB of DDR5 SDRAM isn't just a headline. In practice, it means you can have multiple heavy applications open while you game. Think Photoshop, a Discord voice channel, and a web browser with dozens of tabs without feeling a hiccup. Streamers will appreciate the headroom for OBS overlays, real-time encoding, and possibly a second game instance for a play-along session. If you're the type who keeps a massive mod list in Skyrim or runs a Minecraft server locally, that RAM is actually useful, not just a marketing fluff number. Storage is where the no-compromise promise shows up most clearly. A 4TB SSD, split across probably 2 NVMe drives, gives you enough room for a sizable game library, large video files, and the OS to breathe. Loading times in open-world games drop noticeably. Think under 10 seconds from launch to playable in Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a tangible daily benefit. The downside? Those drives are soldered onto the motherboard, which makes future upgrades a bit more involved than swapping a 2.5-inch SATA. If you're someone who likes to upgrade storage every year, you'll need to plan ahead or be comfortable opening the case. Connectivity-wise, the Legion T5 has a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port, a handful of USB-A ports, HDMI and DisplayPort outputs, and a solid RJ45 Ethernet jack. The Wi-Fi 6 module is fast enough for most household setups, but I've seen a few reviewers mention a slight latency spike when streaming over Wi-Fi compared to a wired connection. That's not a deal-breaker, but if you plan to game on a wireless network, you might want to invest in a quality router or just plug in the Ethernet for consistency. Now, let's talk about the everyday experience of owning this machine. The chassis is a fairly standard mid-tower, nothing overly flashy, but it's painted in a subtle gray that blends into a home office without screaming gamer cave. The front panel houses the power button, a few USB ports, and a headphone jack, so you don't need to reach around the back every time you plug something in. The side panel is easy to remove, which is a nice touch if you ever need to add a larger GPU or a custom cooling loop. However, the fans are louder than a typical office PC when the GPU is under full load. In a quiet apartment, you'll hear a faint whir during intense battles, which could be a distraction if you're trying to focus on a strategy game or a video call. That's the hidden trade-off of packing a high-end GPU and CPU into a relatively compact case. One practical weakness that pops up in user forums is the lack of a dedicated BIOS switch for quiet mode. The system defaults to performance-oriented fan curves, which means you can't easily dial down the noise without diving into software tweaks. If you're looking for a silent background machine for workday use, you might need to spend extra time fine-tuning the fan profile.